Hello and welcome to the Rask Network. What you're about to hear and see is limited to general financial information only. Please be sure to speak to your financial planner or refer to our financial services guide available at rask.com.au/FSG before acting on the information.
Welcome back to the Australian Business Podcast. Today I am joined in the studio in Melbourne with Jordan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Good to have you down here again.
Thanks for having me. It's freezing cold as usual.
It is cold. You've just missed we had a little warm snap
It's
recently.
been like 20, 25 degrees in Sydney every day. So It's freezing here.
Yeah, fair enough.
I packed one jumper and then last night it was about 10 o'clock, I think. I'm like, ooh, it's freezing.
Yeah.
It's like 10 degrees. I was like,
and we sat and had dinner outside last night too. Yeah. So that was pretty
Next
cold.
to the heaters, thank God for that.
I know. So we've got a good one today. What are we talking about?
Talking about managing remote teams. Yeah, I think it's an important one because it's not just professional services. And when I say that, like accountants, lawyers, marketing firms, where your work is just on a computer. But we're really starting to see people that do things with their hands, whether it's videography, whether it's a tradesperson, they're really starting to dabble into this remote work. And it's not just VAs or people in the Philippines or in India, wherever your VA is based, but like people in Australia will have staff members in different states or different cities. So yeah, super important to make sure that everything's in place so these people, when they do work for you, that they can do the job at the best of their ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, it gives the ability, when you're hiring remotely, you have a bigger pool of candidates as well.
Absolutely.
It's not someone that's just in the postcode that's happy to come into the office. You can get talent anywhere in Australia.
Yep.
So I think that's one of the better things as well. It gives you more of a work-life balance. Sometimes you don't have to spend an hour and a half on the train, or I know yourself, if you were to come in here, it's an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
So working from home, you can be more efficient. There's no travel time as well.
Yep. And I mean, with Inflection as well, like as we're sort of bringing more and more people on board, we are really embracing we have an office space, but we are really embracing that remote culture. So it just means that we have the ability to bring people on, hire people that have a skill set globally. So we're not just kind of tapping into, like you said, the postcode or even just the Australian market. We are able to really bring in skill sets and like intelligence and expertise across the globe, which is really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are challenges.
Of course.
And some of the challenges for us, what we've had is communication. And look, there's software out there to help with this. I know we use Slack across all the businesses. But what are some, I guess, quick wins on that communication side of things? I know I've said Slack, but is there a meeting cadence? How do you get on top of that type of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's having consistency in that meeting cadence as well. So I know we internally have like a standing kind of weekly whip with our team that we catch up every Tuesday. And it's just kind of reviewing kind of where we're at for the week, what we're focusing on. It can be client related or internally kind of work related. But we also have the first kind of, 15 or 20 minutes of that catch up, just chatting.
Yeah.
And like having that kind of, human interaction that you do sort of miss out in a remote workplace. If you are kind of working, whether you're going into a co-working place or something like that, sometimes the relationships that you typically would build in a brick and mortar kind of office place, it takes a little bit longer to build those relationships when it is remote. So I think that's a really important thing, is like having that standing meeting so people know what to expect. They know that they're going to have a touch point every Tuesday or whatever kind of day that looks like. So we kind of do an all hands, and we do an all hands about independently kind of our work. And then we also do like an all hands for Inflection itself. So like kind of like a monthly, what we want to focus on as a business, not just for the clients, but I think that's really important as well. So it's like we have a business meeting and a client meeting. Yeah,
we do the exact same. So every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, we'll have a team catch up. We've got staff all over the shop.
Yeah.
And we'll run through, again, it's 5 minutes or what's the plan for the weekend? How was your weekend? Just doing normal human things. Interacting, because sometimes we don't think about that and it's like, okay, cool, what are you doing today? What are you doing today? And you just get caught up in it. So I think it's really important to help build, foster a good culture and allow people to share what's going on. I remember at a place I used to work at, when we'd have those catch-ups, it'll be like a lemon and an orange. It's like when something good that happened, something bad.
Oh, interesting.
So they did that every week. I mean, it was good. It broke down the barriers, but going back to that meeting cadence, every week, 3 times a week, just so everyone is, I guess, just so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, we call it a 2-word check-in. And it's something that I got from Brene Brown, but it's literally just the first thing that we do in the meeting is we jump in, 2-word check-in, how are you feeling today? And it can be you feel really great, or you feel really tired, or you feel a bit off, or whatever it might be. And it just kind of helps to give one another a little bit of grace moving into that day. So if someone's had a rough sleep for whatever it might be, or maybe they're like over the moon and they're really ecstatic, it just kind of gives us an understanding of where that person is mentally as they approach that day. And it allows us to kind of, if we need to, give them grace.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other challenges that we've had is like the whole managing productivity, accountability. For me, at the start, it's like, well, I don't know what they're doing because you can't see it.
Of course.
And things that we use to overcome that, those meetings have been a big thing. As accountants, we do timesheets, but so that's how we monitor what gets done. But even if it's not timesheets and you're not doing timesheets, you can still monitor someone's progress. You know how long a job should take to do, whether that's as an agency, whether that's as a tradesperson, as a video editor, whatever it may be, you know how long that job should take. So I think it's super important that you are managing that productivity. And if it's outside of what you deem to be fair, then make sure you hold that person accountable because you don't want to allow, what do they say, give them an inch and they take a mile. You don't want to foster that and allow that to happen. You hear stories all the time of people working remotely, just watching Netflix. And you just you don't want a culture like that. You don't want to be okay with that happening in your business.
Yeah. And I think there's a few ways that you can kind of, I guess, curb that as well. Like, I mean, in agency space, it's very obvious very fast if things aren't getting done because, you know, it's a client facing role. And, you know, it's just, if it's not done, it's very obvious that the work's not being done and the accounts start to, you know, see a decline in the results and those kinds of things. But I think it comes from like bringing people into the vision of the organisation, what kind of the goals are, and having that buy-in from everybody. So even if, you know, someone is working overseas, so like our social media manager at the moment is living in Bali, and it's only a 2-hour time difference, which is fine. But she's absolutely crushing it. And it's because she totally believes in the direction of the organisation. She knows what she's doing. She's comfortable in what she's doing. I think also showing that there's like support and touch points available. Yes, you work independently, but you're not alone. I'm here. And yeah, so I think it's about, you know, maybe having some accountability in terms of giving them responsibility, so they don't feel like they're just kind of ticking boxes every day, but they're kind of working towards a greater purpose. I've found, you know, again, at the moment we are predominantly remote, but I've found that to be a really key part of the organisation.
Do you prefer remote or do you prefer in office? Do you prefer hybrid?
It's interesting. After I left kind of the last organisation I was working for, I did sort of like remote for 18 months. And initially it was a novelty and I absolutely loved it and I thrived. And I was like, this is it, because, you know, I can take my break when I want to. I can be in my space. If I want to go and sit outside, or I want to take my 1 hour lunch break and I want to do gardening or whatever to like literally change my environment. It was great. And then in the last 6 months, I've been craving that human interaction, absolutely craving it, because then I went from, having more and more people around to like less and less. And I mean, last year, my husband and I traveled around for like Europe for 3.5 months. So it was great to work remotely because the environment was consistently changing and there was exciting things to do. But then I think I've kind of like settled down now, and I'm craving that interaction. So really excited for the new office place that we're getting, because it's going to have, you know, a couple of days a week I can go in and be with people. Yeah,
I agree. I've always been all for going into the office. Even during COVID, Daniel and I used to drive in because, I don't know, I just feel like having that separation sometimes can be good. And look, don't get me wrong, there's pros and cons for both sides. But yeah, me personally, just having someone that you can talk to about nothing to do with work. I think it's good. Not just to be siloed by yourself all the time.
Yes. And I think sometimes it depends on the work that you're doing too. Like I know sometimes I can be wildly more productive at home 100%. In my own space with silence. I can get so much done in like a 4-hour time block, which might take me 8 hours in an office. But sometimes I just need that. I need other people's thoughts and voices and physical energy around.
100%. When you need to just lock in and do some work, sometimes that's the best way to do it.
Totally. Yeah. So I think, like you said, pros and cons to both. I think as long as you balance it, and you figure out the way that works best for you.
For sure. And it's super important, communication. I know we spoke about it before, but especially when remotely, because it's not as simple as turning to the left and going, hey, what do you think of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
Or can we have a quick chat about this? So I think it's, you need to have clear communication channels. We use Slack. There's other software you can use like Microsoft Teams. There's Zoom. Pick up the phone, make a phone call.
Yes.
And I think it really shows the importance of collaboration tools.
Yes.
So things like Monday, ClickUp, whatever it is. For us as accountants, we use a software called Carbon, where if we're working on a job and you're working on it, I can see where you're up to. If you've got any issues, you can drop the questions in there, tag the person. It's exactly the same as Carbon, as Monday. Just looks a bit different. I think those tools are so important, so you can have an efficient team and an efficient system to get the work done.
Yeah, I think especially if you're having like, whether it's once a week or twice a week, or you guys have 3 times a week, kind of whatever you're working on, so that the conversation doesn't have to be like, oh, what are you working on this week? It's like, it's in there, whether you're collaborating with someone, whether I'm doing something with, our Google Ads specialist and we're kind of working together on an account, I'm coming up with a strategy and he's kind of helping me with that, whatever that sort of looks like. We can kind of drop our thoughts in. We know what we're both up to. So you kind of get that project management, essentially.
Yeah, super important, especially for the remote teams. Now, communication expectations, it's an interesting one. There's actually a law, I don't know, I think it may have gotten passed, or I don't know if it was just clickbait, but in Australia, I don't know if it's you can't get let go if you don't, if you send an email and you don't respond outside of work hours, like you can't be held accountable for that.
I think it's just that now employees have some more rights in the sense of like they don't have to, like once it's clock off time and they're not obliged to reply. I've been a part of, I know agencies sometimes can be a bit rife for it, but I've been a part of organizations before where it's like all hours. Not all hours as in midnight, but it's like you could be sent a message at 7 o'clock at night and there's not an expectation, but like, quote unquote expectation that you should probably respond because this is a problem. Whereas now it's illegal to reply to people and connect with them outside of hours.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's good?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's good for work-life balance. I think like healthy kind of boundaries is super important. And I know that we've kind of spoken a little bit about it in the Inflection community as well. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last kind of decade of moving between different agencies and different types of work is setting those really strong boundaries. I think if something pops up and you have something to say to someone at 7 o'clock at night, schedule it to send so that it's not interrupting that person when they're clocking off. There's definitely times where I have thoughts at 9 o'clock at night and I'm like, oh, damn, I wish I could just send that to that person. But I don't know where they're at. I don't know what they're doing. And I don't really have the right to kind of interrupt them at 9 o'clock at night. So I'm a big fan of voice notes. So I record a voice note and then I schedule it to send at 9 a.m. the next morning. Yeah.
It's a hard one as a business owner, because there's 2 sides to it. There's staff, and then as a business owner, you're available all the time, whether we like it or not.
Yes.
We're receiving emails, like you said, an idea will come up that you want to tell someone. It's just really hard to find that balance. For me personally, anyway, because you're getting notifications left, right, and center. And yes, you can turn them off, but I know for me, I don't have my email notifications on over the weekend, but I'm still checking it.
You still check
every hour.
It's hard. It's hard when you're the business owner because you're so close to it.
I think it's good to be able to switch off, but there are times where you do need to be accessible, even as a staff member. Like if you want to get great at your job and succeed and all that, there is going to be times where you just can't switch your phone off. Like if you're working on I don't know if you're a lawyer or if you need to get a video done and edited in time.
You're looking at Monique.
I am looking at Monique. But whatever the case may be, and I'm not saying like every single day it has to be done, but there are going to be times, and everyone knows this, that you just need to do the extra couple of hours today. Yeah. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one to balance, and it's work in progress. Yeah. I think it's always going to be a work in progress because we're all so connected.
I think so. Yeah.
If it's not Slack, then there's email and there's the workflow software that we spoke about, like Monday, like all of these things, they're all communication tools. So,
and I think as your team starts to expand and we're starting of talking about global teams as well. And so obviously our social media managers living it up in Indonesia at the moment, but we've got another guy that we're working with who's traveling at the moment, still working, but traveling. And at the moment he's in Mexico. So that kind of time difference is, 16 hours. Sometimes he'll do things on his Friday afternoon, which is my Saturday morning. So sometimes I'll get notifications from him on a Saturday, which again, I'm a business owner, so it's fine. And I'm, again, we've just spoken about boundaries, but sometimes I am online on a Saturday, but it's also hard when you're really passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing I think that comes into the equation as well, particularly with business owners. You're doing something you're passionate about. So you kind of want to be doing it all the time and you want to be talking about it all the time. So yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, as business owners, always ticking, but I think I'm also speaking like to staff members, like respect your staff members' time when you can. Well, no, period. Respect their time.
I agree.
But as a business owner, I just don't think you're going to be able to switch off.
Yeah.
Because all the ones that I speak to, 7 days a week, you're always ticking. Yeah. You're always thinking about it. So it's a hard one. And moving back to, I don't know how we got on that topic, but moving back to building like trust and accountability when we do have remote teams, you just want to make sure that you're fostering that culture where accountability. I think accountability is really important, especially in this day and age. And some ways to do that is setting clear goals and expectations as well. Mm-hmm. To dive a bit deeper on that, things like defining roles, responsibilities, and performance expectations too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having, I know one of the other things, like thinking about like performance indicator, like KPIs and those sorts of things.
OKRs.
OKRs, yeah, depending on kind of what you're using and I guess the system and the process that you're using. But I think if you've got those KPIs, then also setting out, if someone reaches those KPIs, is that meeting their expectations of the job? Is it exceeding the expectations of the job? And I think sometimes also like coming back to, I guess, like building that trust and accountability, sometimes it can be mapping out kind of what a progression pathway looks like for someone and what like a career pathway looks like for someone. So you can say, okay, well, this is what you're accountable for. And if you're accountable for these things, not only are you meeting your job, but you're also kind of working your way towards that next step.
Yeah.
So I think that can help as well. I think in terms of trust, building those relationships is really important. Focusing, I know we kind of did an episode about like hiring and managing team members, and I think we dived into it quite a lot in that episode as well.
Yeah, 100%. And once you have those KPIs and the accountability and that's all set up, you can allow your staff to work with autonomy as well. There's no need to micromanage and you can allow that flexibility. Like for me personally, that's cool. If there's a job and you need to there's a deadline, just get it done. If you want to do that, at 7 o'clock at night, or if you want to smash it out in the morning, cool. I'm flexible. As long as it gets done and the deadlines are met, then you can pick whichever time you want to get it done. Yeah.
Deadlines and also like client kind of, expectations are met as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like at Grayspace, it's like client above all else. You want to make sure that they're satisfied with the services they get delivered. So sometimes, you're going to have to go outside of the standard 9 to 5 to deliver that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think as well on the trust, like not micromanaging, like allow the team member to work on their own tasks. Avoid micromanaging at all costs.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it comes down to as well, like, again, if you're a small business and you're bringing someone else in or, a small team, sometimes the micromanaging doesn't necessarily come from a negative place. It comes from like the ability to let go as a business owner. It's like the ability to kind of hand over control to somebody else. And I think sometimes that's where micromanaging can come into it, when it's like, I just want to be across it. I just want to know what's going on. Not from a place that I don't trust you, but I just want to be across it because like, it's my business and I want to know where we're at and, is there anything I can do to support you and those kinds of things. But I think if you trust your team, then you need to trust to let them know if they need you.
Yeah, 100% agree. And we spoke about it before, but making sure that you have the right project management tools set up. So again, Asana, Trello, Monday, whatever it is, all of those things, whichever industry you're in, I'm sure there's something. And if there's not, then you can build your own using Monday. That'll help you with all of the above that we've just spoken about, or everything we've just gone through.
Yeah. And it also helps efficiency as well,
yep.
Because what it might take you to send an email or send a Slack message or send a voice note to someone asking them where they're at, pull them out of whatever work they're doing
yep.
to respond to you, to kind of, I think that's why those project management tools are so important, not in the sense of like it just keeps everyone across what's happening, but also it can help to improve those efficiencies within the organization too.
Yeah, 100%. Another important thing when managing remote teams is engagement and like team morale.
Yeah.
Because there's no other human interaction, it's just them. If they're not coming in at all and it's like pure remote, then you need to make sure that there's that engagement, because if there's not going to be motivation to get the work done.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. And again, something we've briefly spoken about in that last episode about HR, team building, all of that type of stuff, all that fun stuff. Just because they're not there, you can still work on that those team building exercises. So you can have those virtual events. I know during COVID, we would do that. Like every Friday, we'd have a drink together.
Yeah.
What a miserable time that was. But like, yeah, it's great trying to build team morale, but like sitting in front of your screen, drinking a beer with 5 other people.
Like, was it last Friday or the one before where Owen sent us a message and was like, who's around? Do you want to have like a Friday knockoff?
That was mad.
That was awesome. We were on for like an hour and a half and we were just like chatting about work, but also just like chatting about weekends. And then I think we all went silent for a little bit and did a bit of work for like 10 minutes. And then we all kind of came back. But I know myself, like I feel like that was a week where I'd had a full-time week at home.
Yep.
And I'd woken up on Friday morning and I was like, Friday.
Yeah.
Just smash it out.
Yep.
You know, I hadn't left home. So quite often I will, throughout the week, I'll either go into a co-working space or I'll go to a cafe. And I just hadn't this week. I just was like, get in, get it done. There was a lot on the to-do list. So I think when I knocked off on Thursday night, I was like, man, I'm craving people.
Yeah.
And so Owen's message actually came at a really great time because I was just like feeling not flat, but I was just like exhausted from the week. And I was just like, oh, gee, I wish I could just like sit down and have a drink with someone tonight or just like have a laugh with someone and just shake off the energy from the week. And so that was, I feel like I came off that hour and a half chat just like totally different person.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm back.
Yeah, it was cool because you were working, I was working, Dan was driving somewhere.
Yeah, I think Dan was driving up for dinner.
Yeah. And we were just on the phone for an hour and a half. There was like 10-minute silences, but it was good. But like, things like that are super important because when you have those weeks where you're not interacting with anyone, it's difficult to stay motivated and on task.
Yeah.
Another thing that you can sort of tie into that is reward and recognition, celebrating the wins, whether they're big or they're small. I think it's really important because, again, there's no if you're full-time remote, there's no interaction from the work side of things.
I agree.
And again, it's just good for your mental health and well-being. I think it's good to interact with people. You want to support all the staff with their well-being and prompting work-life balance.
Yeah. And encouraging people to take breaks. I know like during COVID, I know everyone's spoken about it like so many times. And not that we want to like relive that experience, but like, you know, how often did people talk about like they'd end up working later because there was no one else around to tell them to clock off or to give them that signal that like, oh, hey, it's 5 o'clock, we're all finishing. You just kind of keep working or you work through your lunch break. But I think it's so important to encourage people to take those breaks, you know, and just disconnect when they can so that they can come back refreshed. You know, I know sometimes if I'm feeling like it's my, you know, 2:30 p.m. that's my like slump period. I really start to shut down.
Yeah,
and then I
coffee.
And so then I'll either go for a coffee or I'll go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just take the dog for a walk and it might just be like 15, 20 minutes and I come back and I'm like, refreshed. And so I think it's so important. I know the benefits of that and just encouraging people to do that themselves.
Yeah. The mental health and the well-being is a huge part of working from home or remote working because, I don't know, I enjoy having people in the office and being able to chat to them. And if you don't have that, and if you live by yourself as well, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, and I think the flexibility is a part of that as well. Like it really comes into the mental health and well-being part. Like I know every Monday, like my PT class is at 8 a.m. and it's 20 minutes away.
Yep.
And so it's like, but afterwards everyone from the PT class goes out for a coffee together. So it's like most of the time I don't start until 10 a.m. on a Monday, but I'll work a bit later.
Yep.
So I still get my kind of, you know, whatever I need to get done. But I think that's something that I really try to promote with all of our other team members as well is like, cool, if you've got a yoga class at 11 o'clock, go to it.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? Like if that's going to bring you back and you're going to come back into the environment refreshed, ready to go again, and you've got that energy and maybe a fresh perspective, you're probably going to be more productive than if you just sat at your desk anyway. So, I think that's the breaks and also like that flexibility that comes with remote work is massive.
Couldn't agree more. And I think on that note and on those examples, that's why it's super important to have KPIs and accountability, because you're more than happy, and I'm the same, like go and do that if that's what you need to do. But that doesn't mean you can take the piss when you have to come back and work. Like make sure client expectations are being delivered, all of your tasks are getting done. Like it's not just, I think people not take advantage of it, but sometimes can be like, oh, okay, cool. That means I don't have to do the extra hour or make up for it. So I think it's really important to have accountability, so that way everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people, I've seen it before where people do take the piss.
Yeah.
So I think having those open channels of communication, those regular team catch-ups, and that accountability, whatever the metric is, you avoid all of that, and it's just a smooth. It's never smooth sailing with managing people, but as smooth as can be.
And I think part of that as well, like managing performance, providing feedback is all a part of that as well. Like just because it's a remote team doesn't mean that, you don't see progression in your career. It doesn't mean that you don't, get promoted to that next role or that next tier or get that salary progression. It doesn't mean that you're going to learn any more or any less than if you were in an organization with, a manager that was touching base with you. So it's like consistently giving that feedback, consistently having those one-on-one check-ins, making sure that those, whether they're performance reviews or kind of like monthlies or quarterly whips, whatever they are, that's always provided. It's always constructive. You've always got goals that people are working towards. I think, creating that culture, again, I think we spoke about it in the, might have even also been in the scaling, but in the hiring and managing people around that culture of like ongoing kind of continual open loop feedback.
Yeah, for sure. And on that, the performance reviews that you mentioned, with our outsourced team who are based in the Philippines, we use them through, we've hired them through a BPO, so like an organization that organizes all of the HR side of things, the staffing and their progress. We didn't actually, when we started our business, like it wasn't front of mind, like everything we've pretty much gone through. And that really opened our eyes up. Like every 3 months there's a check-in, there's a performance review, these are the KPIs, there's training sessions, and it's just so important. We're like, oh yeah, cool. Just because they're not there, it doesn't mean you don't have to do these normal things that you're doing with all the other staff.
Yeah.
It allows for the continuous feedback.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to just get on top of these things, because it allows you to even squash when someone's underperforming, you get on top of it straight away.
Yep.
Have those difficult chats. They're crap. No one likes having them, but you just need to have them sometimes.
Yeah. But I think if you have that that open feedback loop, that continuous feedback taking place, and you're creating, I guess, like a culture of two-way feedback as well. Like, hey, maybe I've said something that didn't land, or maybe I explained something poorly. I want people to come to me and tell me that. I want people to say, hey, like, you said this thing, it actually was wrong. Or like, you explained this and it wasn't right, or, you said this thing and it actually made me feel X. That two-way kind of feedback is really important. And I think that helps that then when there is any underperformance that needs to be addressed, that it's done quickly. It's not left lingering for 4 weeks until the next kind of monthly check-in. Yeah. And then it becomes this snowball event.
All the little things are now fostering. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nip that stuff in the butt.
Absolutely. And I think on the flip side of that, when things are going really well, say it straight away. Give people that feedback instantly.
Yep. For sure. It's really important to treat your remote team exactly the same as you would the team that's in person, especially moving forward. And it's becoming a lot more popular. Actually, the statistics that are coming out of people actually preferring to go back into the office. Yeah. So it's a big 360 shift to what's happened in the last 4 years. Well, more so COVID, it was sort of forced, especially in Victoria. But now you're starting to see the flip to that side of things. And I think it's great.
Yeah. I think it's like having that flexibility. I know for me personally, it's like 2 days in the office and 3 days from home is really great.
Yep.
Or 3 days in the office, 2 days from home, whatever that kind of looks like. I think going back into the office full time would probably be a lot in terms of my like attention span.
Yeah.
Because then I think, sometimes it's great to bounce off other people's energy, but sometimes it's like we said earlier, need to get in, get it done, and it's really easy to just kind of zone out and do that. Yeah, for sure. Key takeaway for me out of today's episode is you want to make sure that you have these systems in place. I think the most important thing is the meeting cadences and having some type of workflow software. I think they're the two most important things for me. There's no set way of doing it. There's no right way of doing it. We use 3 times a week for our check-ins and our workflow meetings
from the management side of things, we catch up once a week to look at high level numbers and whatnot. I just think as long as you're doing something like that, it's reoccurring, it's happening every week. There's some type of workflow software where anyone can log in and see who's doing what. For me, they're probably the non-negotiables to take out of today. So
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that meeting cadence is a super important one. And I think, depending on kind of what organization you're a part of as well, there's a lot of organic conversation that's going to happen. Like marketing is a very collaborative world, very creative. There's a lot of ideas that kind of need to be thrown around between different people. So we might have that kind of 1 week, 1 day a week kind of meeting cadence, but we're probably meeting every day at some point, So
you're still going back and forth talking. Slack is every day.
Yeah. Totally.
If listeners did want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone wants to get in touch, whether it be for marketing support, social media management, paid ads, those kinds of things, we have some links in the show notes. We do free discovery calls, no obligation. Just jump in, we'll have a chat, we'll figure out kind of where your business is at. And if we can help, we would love to.
For sure. And the good thing about the discovery call, strategy call with yourself is you're talking, it's not just a sales call. You're talking about the business, talking about the different ways you can help. I mean, if you're an e-com business, then the main focus is going to be on getting that low-hanging fruit like the email marketing. So would strongly recommend for all listeners to get in touch and just book a discovery call, cost you nothing, and I'm sure you get a few golden nuggets out of it.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thanks, Zara.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.